Hi, welcome to this course, Conservation and Environmental Stewardship for Sustainable Agricultural Ecosystems. The main objective of this course is to foster environmental stewardship among participants through promoting responsible land use and conservation practices to support the development of sustainable agricultural ecosystems. The course will seek to promote sustainable agricultural practices that minimize the environmental footprint of farming while ensuring the availability of nutritious food. We want to cultivate a sense of environmental stewardship. We want to encourage participants to become caretakers of the land, caretakers of water, caretakers of biodiversity, which are very essential for the well-being of our planet. The course will explore strategies to mitigate the impact of agriculture on climate change and adapt to changing environmental conditions. This course will empower you with the knowledge and tools to make informed decisions that can prioritize responsible land use and conservation. This course will also try to instill the importance of long-term sustainability in agriculture by emphasizing the protection and enhancement of natural resources for future generations. In this course, we will explore various topics and practices that empower participants to take action towards responsible land use and conservation. Each subtopic will delve into practical strategies or practical approaches that participants can implement on their own farms in such a way that you will be contributing to a more sustainable and environmentally responsible agricultural ecosystem. So as you progress through this course, you will gain valuable knowledge and practical skills to address the pressing environmental challenges facing agriculture today. Whether you are an experienced farmer or you are a beginner, this course will offer insights that can help you become a responsible land steward and a champion of sustainable farming practices. So the course is divided into several subtopics. Module 1 will address the concept of conservation and environmental stewardship. Module 2 will be looking at soil conservation. Module 3 will discuss issues around sustainable water use. Module 4 will discuss biodiversity and habitat conservation. Module 5 will look at sustainable crop and livestock management. Module 6 will discuss climate change, mitigation, and adaptation. Module 7 will be comparing sustainable agriculture with industrial agriculture, while Module 8 will look at the threats currently standing against agricultural sustainability. Module 1. The concept of conservation and environmental stewardship. The Sustainable Development Goal number 2, which aims to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition, promotes sustainable agriculture, recognizes the interlinkages among supporting sustainable agriculture, empowering small farmers, promoting gender equality, ending rural poverty, ensuring healthy lifestyles, tackling climate change, and other issues, all addressed within the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We believe that land, healthy soils, water, and plant genetic resources are key inputs into food production, and their growing scarcity in many parts of the world makes it imperative to use and manage them sustainably. Boosting yields on existing agricultural lands, including restoration of degraded lands through sustainable agricultural practices, will also relieve the pressure to clear forests for agricultural production. If scarce water is managed efficiently through improved irrigation and storage technologies, Combined with development of new drought-resistant crop varieties, this will contribute to sustaining drylands productivity. Why is responsible land use a matter of concern? Well, responsible land use and conservation are the heart of building sustainable agricultural ecosystems. As we know, agriculture is vital for feeding the world's growing population, but it also has an impact on the environment. Traditional practices that we have been using over the years are characterized by high resource consumption, minimal consideration for long-term sustainability. They have effects. They impact on soil erosion, water pollution, they cause habitat loss, and of course, they contribute significantly to climate change. So this course is designed to address these challenges and emphasize the urgent need for responsible land use and conservation in agriculture. By adopting sustainable practices and ensuring that we become environmental stewards, the productivity of our lands is ensured. Our natural resources are safeguarded for future generations to use. The importance of responsible land use, conservation, and sustainable agriculture. While conventional agriculture places significant pressures on the environment, sustainable agriculture, on the other hand, is characterized by its ambition to do the opposite. Sustainable agriculture is an approach to farming that prioritizes natural and renewable resources over synthetic inputs like fertilizers and pesticides. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, sustainable agriculture seeks to meet the needs of present and future generations. So we are not just looking at current, being able to meet the current food needs, but we need to look at being able to sustain these lands for future generations to use. We know that the label sustainable is not well regulated by governments, so there is generally no way to know if a farm that calls itself sustainable is actually following any of the tenets of the farming philosophy called sustainable agriculture. However, we know that sustainable agriculture is not just a buzzword, it's an imperative. Why is it so important? Several reasons we have outlined here. There is the issue of environmental preservation. Responsible land use and conservation are central to preserving our environment, from preventing soil erosion to protecting biodiversity and maintaining clean water resources. Sustainable agriculture safeguards our natural surroundings. So the major matters in the environment are being highlighted here. Limiting and managing use of chemical, pesticides, and fertilizers help protect the surrounding environment. Also, when you have diversity of crops, it will reduce erosion to restore soil nutrients that have already been depleted. Another importance is seen with regards to economic viability. So sustainable agriculture promotes long-term economic viability. Okay, so these practices help to enhance the soil health. They will reduce resource consumption. Of course, that will lead to higher yields, and then it is cost saving. So for economic reasons, it is good. There is a matter of food security. Sustainable agriculture ensures that the land remains productive for generations to come. So as the world's population continues to grow, there are estimations that the world's population will be over 10 billion by 2050. So the need for reliable food production is paramount. But we have to do that through sustainable means. Other importance include climate change mitigation. We know that agriculture plays a dual role in climate change. As a contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, it also serves as a potential solution through certain practices that we will highlight in this course. For us, responsible land use and conservation is also a matter of social responsibility. Okay, so sustainable agriculture will provide a better life, better quality of life for farming communities, minimize the negative impacts of farming on communities around farms. Of course, animal welfare is important to look at. So, farms that practice sustainable agriculture will contribute to animal welfare and protection. So, you'll be looking at issues like providing reasonable space to house the animals, housing the animals in smaller groups, because group size can positively affect the behavior, the social behavior of the animals. It can improve interaction between animals, and then between animals and the workers. So the issue of animal welfare cannot be overlooked. And of course, human health, or what we'll call public health, is important. Industrial farms raise animals in conditions that increase the likelihood of disease outbreaks and the risk of future pandemics, because these farms, they use antibiotics to speed up animal growth and prevent diseases. Okay, and then farms that practice sustainable agriculture can avoid using antibiotics preventatively. Okay, these unsustainable practices cause certain challenges, threats to the environment, threats to society, and threats to the long-term viability of farming. Some of these challenges are highlighted here. These include soil erosion. When you do excessive tillage, you do monoculture farming, you practice overgrazing, all these can lead to soil erosion. And then they deplete the fertile topsoil. They also contribute to sedimentation in water bodies, which of course is water pollution. Then talking about water pollution, when you use synthetic fertilizers and pesticides in excess, they contaminate the water sources. Of course, that's a risk to aquatic ecosystems and human health as well. When you don't do efficient irrigation, it will lead to water wastage, water contamination. Then number 3 is the issue of habitat loss. Unsustainable land use practices often result in the destruction of natural habitats. This in turn endangers biodiversity and can lead to the decline or extinction of some species, including pollinators and other beneficial organisms. There is a challenge of deforestation. When you clear forests for agricultural expansion, it disrupts the ecosystem, releases stored carbon into the atmosphere, and that contributes to climate change. Resource depletion. When you overuse resources such as water and fossil fuels, it depletes the resources and further exacerbates environmental degradation. Number 6 addresses the issue of climate change, which is one of the challenges of unsustainable agricultural practices. Okay, so a lot of greenhouse gases are emitted into the atmosphere. This causes climate change. It causes unpredictable weather patterns, extreme weather events, and this poses a challenge for agriculture. Number 7 is economic instability. Unsustainable practices can lead to diminishing returns for farmers and erode the economic sustainability, rather economic stability of agricultural regions. Short-term gains often come at the expense of long-term profitability. So you could be wanting to make the most right now, but if you are depleting the soil, then future economic viability is affected. Number 8, public health concerns. So the use of synthetic chemicals in unsustainable practices can result in chemical residues in food. These pose health challenges for consumers. And then when you expose workers and farm communities to some of these chemicals, it affects their health. In summary, the importance of sustainability in agriculture is evident in its potential to address these pressing challenges and create a more resilient, productive, and responsible agricultural ecosystem. Sustainable practices aim to strike a balance between meeting the needs of the present while safeguarding the needs of future generations and the environment. Module 2. Soil conservation. The soil is a fundamental resource for agriculture. That is where we plant our crops, grow our crops. If they are to thrive, the soil is important. Fertile and healthy soils are important for high yields. So, soil management is crucial for us. Unsustainable farming practices damage the soil in the long term. Let's look at the concept of soil conservation. This is the practice of protecting and preserving soil from degradation and erosion. It aims to maintain or improve the soil quality and prevent the loss of fertile topsoil. The benefits include things like the improvement of crop yields. Of course, water quality is enhanced. Then there are reduced environmental impacts. Responsible land use through soil conservation contributes to a sustainable agricultural ecosystem. So one of the major challenges with soil is the issue of erosion. Whether erosion is caused by water or is caused by wind, it has detrimental effects. It can lead to loss of fertile topsoil, degradation of agricultural land. This affects agricultural productivity adversely. It causes sedimentation in water bodies. It causes a release of carbon into the atmosphere. There are various techniques that farmers can use to prevent erosion, and let's look at some of them. Terracing is a technique that can be used, as can be seen in the picture. Terracing is used on hilly or mountainous terrain. It creates step-like structures that slow water runoff. This prevents soil erosion. These terraces allow for more efficient water infiltration and thus reduce erosion. Another technique is the use of windbreaks. Planting trees or shrubs in strategic locations on the farm helps shield the soil from wind erosion. Windbreaks also serve as a habitat for beneficial wildlife. We are interested in the issue of retaining biodiversity. Another technique is cover cropping. Growing specific cover crops in between cash crops is a practice that helps protect the soil. Cover crops reduce erosion by providing ground cover and improving the soil structure. Let's discuss soil health and soil fertility maintenance. This is essential for sustainable agriculture. Healthy soils not only yield better crops but also require fewer inputs. There are key practices for soil health. Number 1 is soil testing and analysis. This is very important. If you test your soil regularly. It allows you to assess the nutrient levels, you assess the pH levels, other critical factors of the soil. That information will guide nutrient management and, of course, the application of special amendments where necessary. Organic matter incorporation is number 2. So when you add compost or organic materials to the soil, it improves the soil structure. It improves the water holding capacity of the soil. Of course, it improves nutrient content of the soil. Organic matter enhances microbial activity as well, which further benefits soil health. Number 3 is reduced chemical inputs. Sustainable farming practices will limit the use of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides to avoid soil contamination and reduce the carbon footprint of agriculture. Then, of course, number 4, crop rotation. When we alternate the type of crops planted in a field, this will help prevent nutrient depletion and suppress diseases and pests. Crop rotation also enhances soil fertility and soil structure. There is a practice called no-till farming. Some people call it zero-tilling. This practice involves minimal soil disturbance. So instead of the traditional plowing or tilling that we do, farmers will now plant crops directly into the residue of the previous crop. Okay, so it has several benefits like reducing erosion. No-till farming significantly reduces the risk of soil erosion because the soil remains undisturbed and covered with the crop residue. Number 2, it brings about improved soil structure. No-till farming can improve soil structure and moisture retention, making it more resilient and productive. Then there is number 3, which is lower energy use. When you eliminate the need for extensive plowing, the farmers reduce fuel consumption and overall use of energy on the farm. Or whether the tilling was going to be done manually or with use of machines, energy is being consumed. But with the no-till farming, there's lower energy use. Of course, the no-till farming comes with certain challenges, even though it offers many advantages. Some of the challenges include the issue of weed management, and then you may need to use specialized equipment for planting and managing the residue. Module 3, Sustainable Water Use in Agriculture. Agriculture is a major consumer of water resources, so using them efficiently is very important for us to look at. In sustainable agricultural practices, we minimize water wastage. We monitor soil moisture levels. We monitor weather data, and then that helps us to optimize water usage instead of water wastage. There are several methods for efficient irrigation. Remember, we are talking about water management. One of such methods is what is called the drip irrigation. So in drip irrigation, you apply water directly to the plant roots, slowly and precisely, so you are not wasting water. Another method is the sprinkler irrigation. Water is sprayed over crops, requiring good distribution and timing. This is the method of applying water in a controlled manner, similar to rainfall. The water is distributed through a network that may consist of pumps, valves, pipes, and sprinklers, as we can see in the picture on your screen. Module 4, biodiversity and habitat conservation. So biodiversity refers to all different kinds of life you'll find in one area, referring to the variety of animals, the plants, the fungi, the microorganisms, including bacteria that make up our natural world. So each of these species and organisms work together in the ecosystem. They work like an intricate web to maintain balance and support life. So what role does biodiversity play in agriculture? It enhances resilience. Beneficial organisms like pollinators and natural predators thrive in the diverse landscapes. The practice of monoculture, as monoculture farming, can lead to pest outbreaks and reduced soil health. That's where you plant only one type of crop year after year on a particular piece of land. It can lead to pest outbreaks. Habitat restoration and protection. So creating wildlife friendly areas on farms like hedgerows or ponds can help protect the habitat. Hedgerows are lines of shrubs which were originally planted to mark ownership of lands, but they eventually provide a barrier to prevent the movement of sheep, movement of cattle between different portions of land. Unlike fences and walls, hedges provide benefits for us and the wildlife that lives in our gardens. They have the natural ability to capture pollution. Of course, they reduce noise, mitigate flooding, and provide food and shelter to wildlife. Conserving natural habitats near farmlands also support wildlife. This is one way of protecting habitat. Reducing pesticides use to protect beneficial insects and other wildlife is part of habitat protection, habitat restoration. This is all sustainable agriculture. Organic farming and its impact on biodiversity. Organic farming supports biodiversity through reduced use of chemical inputs. So where you are not using a lot of fertilizers, pesticides, insecticides, and all of those chemicals, your farming is more organic. It supports biodiversity. Organic farms have more diverse plant and insect population because they have not been destroyed by the use of chemicals. Module 5. Sustainable crop and livestock management. Crop rotation and diversification helps for sustainable crop and livestock management. Crop rotation involves planting different crops in the same field in a planned sequence. Benefits include improved soil health, pest and disease control, and nutrient cycling. Crop diversification can reduce risk from market fluctuations and extreme weather events. This means you plant different crops from year to year. If there are market fluctuations for certain crops, or if there were extreme weather conditions that affected your production, you are able to survive as the farmer. So it's important to diversify. Sustainable livestock practices include the use of sustainable feed sources to minimize environmental impact. So your feeds are majorly organic, and then you reduce use of antibiotics and growth hormones. There is a practice of integrated pest management. This is a strategy that is based on the ecosystem, focuses on long-term prevention of pests or their damage through a combination of techniques such as biological control, use of resistant varieties, as well as minimizing the use of pesticides to protect beneficial organisms in the soil and in the environment generally. Module 6. Climate change mitigation and adaptation. Climate change mitigation refers to action aimed at limiting climate change. You reduce emissions of greenhouse gases or remove those gases from the atmosphere. Adaptation can be understood as the process of adjusting to the current and future effects of climate change. So while mitigation means making the impacts of climate change less severe by preventing or reducing the emissions of these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, adaptation, on the other hand, involves adjusting practices to changing environmental conditions. Mitigation efforts aim to reduce agriculture's contribution to greenhouse gas emissions, including practices like agroforestry, reduced tillage, which we called no tilling or zero tillage earlier, and then carbon sequestration, which we will look at briefly. So carbon sequestration is a sustainable agricultural practice. We know that carbon dioxide is the most commonly produced greenhouse gas. Carbon sequestration is a method of reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere with the goal of reducing global climate change. Some of the techniques involved include cover cropping, agroforestry, reduced tillage. All of these will increase carbon storage in the soil. The benefits include the improvement of the soil fertility, and then we are mitigating climate change in the process. Module 7. Sustainable agriculture versus industrial agriculture. Over the last century, industrial agriculture has increasingly dominated food production in the world. Large-scale agriculture is characterized by its use of large tracts of land, maximized efficiency and high yields, extensive use of fertilizers and pesticides, and farm animals are raised in very concentrated settings. So while industrial agriculture provides large amounts of food, the system has far-reaching consequences for farmed animals, the workers, as well as the surrounding communities. The impact of industrial agriculture. While industrial agriculture provides large amounts of food, it has several impacts. Some of the impacts include environmental impacts and public health impacts. Talking about environmental impacts, industrial agriculture is a driving force behind water pollution. It causes soil degradation and air pollution. The animals that are housed in concentrated animal feeding operations produce a large ton of manure every year. Okay. In addition to its impact on water quality and safety, manure produced from industrial animal rearing is one of the primary contributors to air pollution. So these animals are fed with inorganic food, with a lot of antibiotics and all of that. The manure they produce releases gases, harmful gases, causing air pollution. As the manure breaks down, it releases several toxins, including ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, methane, and of course particulate matter. These substances are released into the air. When they are inhaled, they cause severe illnesses, including things like chronic bronchitis, lung diseases, or can even lead to death. Beyond these obvious dangers in public health, manure from industrial farms also drives climatic change. Then, of course, there are public health concerns. Crops grown on industrial farms contribute to obesity and poor health in humans. Farm animals raised in concentrated farms are routinely fed antibiotics to prevent disease because of the close quarters that are they are usually raised in very close quarters in such factory farms. They increase the likelihood of illnesses. So we use antibiotics. So the use of antibiotics in animal feed is linked to increase in antibiotic resistant genes in humans. Okay, it has led to the reduction in effectiveness of antibiotics in treating sick people. Industrial agriculture can also be harmful to those who work in the sector. Farm workers commonly experience increased exposure to toxic pesticides, pathogens, and fumes. Additionally, these workers rarely make above minimum wage. So, of course, this means that they have little access to healthcare. So, there's a limit to the benefits of efficiency. Uh, there is an argument in favor of industrial agriculture that it is most efficient in production of large amounts of food that are produced, and can be affordable. The downside is that when farmers and producers prioritize high yields over everything else, they are far less likely to consider how farming methods impact the soil health, how it impacts the wildlife, how it impacts livestock animals. Uh, so these are the challenges. So there's a limit to the benefits that come from efficient farming, which is uh, very common with industrial agriculture. Module 8. What are the current greatest threats to agricultural sustainability? So, the global food system must figure out how to produce enough food for the close to 10 billion people that will populate the planet by the year 2050. Over the past century or so, the food system has been able to produce more food with industrialization. It has become more efficient. Farmlands are expanded into the forests, and all of that to produce enough food. The patterns has created massive greenhouse gas emissions. It has resulted in deforestation. It has caused all manner of pollution. This will continue to add pollution in ways that make the earth uninhabitable for the world's population. So this is a dilemma. In conclusion, this course highlights the critical importance of responsible land use and conservation in agriculture to promote sustainability and environmental stewardship. Through this course, you have gained knowledge, you have seen practical approaches to address the pressing challenges facing agriculture today. So the key takeaway for you should include the significance of sustainable farming practices. Okay, the detrimental effects of these unsustainable practices that are in common use, and the urgent need for responsible land use and conservation. Thank you. This is the assessment. 5 multiple choice questions for this course.